This is Yair Davidi, speaking to you from Jerusalem, the capital of Israel, speaking to you on behalf of Brit Hebrew nations. We believe that the 10 tribes now are to be found amongst Western peoples. Are you from the tribe of Naphtali? Are you from a specific tribe amongst the 10 tribes of Israel? Are you descended from Israel? Are you one of the lost 10 tribes which you want to be? Whatever you answer, perhaps you should listen to this program, to this series, because we are going to go through all of the tribes of Israel and we're going to ask specific questions concerning each and every one of them, and you may well find that your own personality profile is outlined amongst one of the tribes that we're going to discuss. Presently discussing Naphtali, the tribe of Naphtali. The tribe of Naphtali, we will see, had numerous characteristics. Numerous characteristics pertain or characterize Naphtali. Now, if you answer positively to all of the questions or part of the questions, this does not guarantee that you are descended from Naphtali, but it heightens the probability, and that is all we have to go on. That is what we have, probability. We also have the specific blessings and predictions in the Bible that say quite explicitly that the 10 tribes are to be found amongst Western peoples, but to how much as an individual may apply this to himself or to herself is another question. At all events, let us proceed concerning Naphtali. Naphtali had certain traits, and the answers to these questions are not to be taken as absolute indications, but as ones that heighten the probability in a certain direction, that together with other factors may well be worth pursuing. And there is truth in what we are saying. It depends upon to what degree it is applied and applicable in your specific case. So what were the characteristics of Naphtali that we are speaking about? Are you a fast runner? In your youth, were you a fast runner? Do you have alacrity, quick reactions, speed? Are you a good wrestler? Do you judo, martial arts, fighting, dancing? Are you good at it? Do you like it? Do you have the lightness of foot, the coordination and the instinctive ins and outs that are needed to be good at this specific field of activity? Do you have musical ability? Do you like gymnastics, dancing? Are you artistic? Do you have musical ability? We also have sexual personality points. If you are a male, you're open to your feminine side, yet you retain your masculinity. I'm not saying something perverted. I'm saying that the different things which are considered less masculine or more feminine, but it's not exactly so. It's not true. But there is something in it. If you are female, if you are a woman, do you have a tomboy side? Are you a bit of a man? Do you have masculine characteristics? We all have a bit of something or the other in us. It all depends upon when we're talking about the relative degrees, relative associations, and we'll see. If you're in your marital union, if you're married, are you intertwined and involved with your partner, or do you both keep yourself somewhat compartmentalized, in your own separate boxes, because sometimes that is the best way to be. It's the most healthy, and we don't necessarily want to be in and out or in the throat of each other all day long. What about the colours? Do you like pink, mauve, light purple? Do these colours appeal to you? And your character? Do you prefer compromise to confrontation? Do you flatter potential adversaries when you come up against them, or your overseers? People placed over to you, do you butter up to them rather than face them down when there's a problem? Do you take ideas, initiatives of other people and develop them and push them rather than bring up new things of your own? What about the blowing of the shofar, like in the Jewish synagogue? Does it appeal to you if you've heard it? Are you aesthetic? You have an aesthetic ability. Are you appreciative of beauty? Everyone is, but is this more marked with you than it is with your friends and relation and people around you? What about joining the Navy? Would you like to join the Navy? If God forbid there was a war and you all had to join one of the services, would you prefer the Navy to the Air Force and the Army? What about your characteristics? Do you usually avoid the limelight? Are you eloquent in your speech, penetrating in thought? Are you ingrate? An ingrate? Are you ungrateful? We all also, well, this is a common trait, and all of us to some degree or other have been afflicted with it before waking up to ourselves, if we ever do wake up to ourselves. But some of us have a more problem with this than others. You do tend to be ungrateful or not notice the goodness that has been done unto you, or the good. You take good fortune for granted. When someone does you a favour, do you remember to thank them? Are you thankful to them? Someone socially, are you a good team worker rather than a leader? Do you work with others rather than tell them what to do or show them what to do? Follow along, but you do it well. You don't make waves, and you help your friends, your co-workers are pleased with you. Sometimes you place last in the line, but you don't really mind. You're going to get there anyway. What about being progressive? Are you progressive in your outlook? Are you basically a happy person? Together with being happy and content and progressive and so on, do you also have a certain negativity? Or is there, in your family, do you sympathise with third world countries? Are you a bit of a left-winger, pinky? Do you have progressive liberal ideas? Do you tend to the left, to socialist type ideologies or sympathies in your political outlook? If you don't, do you at least understand or sympathise with people who do? On the whole, do you are you a peacemaker rather than someone who gets into fights or scrabbles? Do you try and make friends with people when other people quarrel and so on? You try and patch it up. You don't hurt others, and you try and prevent others from hurting each other. What about your hobbies or your likes and dislikes? Fishing, do you like fishing? Boating? Do you think the Sea of Galilee would appeal to you? Would you like to go to the Sea of Galilee in Israel? Would you have family relations from Scandinavia, especially from Norway, Iceland? What about East Ireland, the Dublin area? Northeast of England, northern Scotland? All of these areas have people from Naphtali in them. Even Central Russia, Hungary, they too, the East, India. If you're an African American, maybe do you too think you're from Los Angeles? Does the message of Britam, Hebrew Nation, so we're speaking, somehow appeal to you, even though you don't really know how to place yourself in its context, we don't really know where you would fit in if you were to go more deeply into this subject. So there's something there for everyone, and we'll go into these, all of these questions and a few more, and we'll discuss them. We'll show the sources, some of the sources, and you'll see for yourselves. And even if you end up by deciding that you're not from the tribe of Naphtali, or probably not from the tribe of Naphtali, you would have made progress. You would know that's one tribe that you're not from. We have another 12 tribes, because actually there were 13 tribes. We also have subgroups within the tribes. And somewhere or other you'll find your place. And in the meantime there's one option that has been limited. And in the progress you've learned something. You learn things about the Bible. You learn things about the Israelite tribes in general. It's worthwhile. We'll discuss it. We'll tell you a little bit about where we get these questions from and what pertinence they have. He asks, are you a fast runner? Do you have alacrity? Are you a good wrestler, judo, martial arts, dancing? Do you have musical ability, gymnastics, dancing? So we have the name Naphtali. Naphtali was the son of Bilhah. Bilhah was the handmaiden of Rachel. Rachel and Leah were the chief wives of Jacob. Jacob is also known as Israel. So we have this Jacob, also known as Israel. In other words, Israel was to give birth to 12 sons. From these 12 sons come the 12 tribes of Israel. Jacob had two main wives, Leah and Rachel, who were sisters. Rachel had a handmaiden, Bilhah, and Leah had a handmaiden named Zilpah. Jacob was also to beget sons from his handmaidens. And the handmaiden of Rachel was called Bilhah. From Bilhah was born Dan and Naphtali. Dan and Naphtali were full brothers, sons of Bilhah, two brothers whom Jacob had begat from Bilhah. And we are told about the way that Dan and Naphtali came into the world. Now first Rachel, after Leah and Rachel had both married Jacob, and Leah began to give children, and Rachel wasn't at first, in the end she was to give birth to two sons, Joseph and Benjamin, but it took a while before this came along. Before Joseph and then Benjamin came along, Rachel wasn't having children, and she saw Leah was there giving them out one after the other, so she got a little bit worried about it. We're told in Genesis 30, now when Rachel saw that she bore Jacob no children, Rachel envied her sister, and she said to Jacob, "Give me children or else I die." Jacob's anger was aroused against Rachel, and he said, "Am I in the place of God who has withheld from you the fruit of the womb?" So she said, "Here's my maid Bilhah, go into her, and she will bear a child on my knees, that I also may have children by her." Then she gave him Bilhah, her maid, as wife, and Jacob went into her. And Bilhah conceived and bore Jacob a son. Then Rachel said, "God has judged my case, and he has also heard my voice and given me a son." And therefore she called his name Dan. Dan means judgment in Hebrew. And Rachel's maid Bilhah conceived again and bore Jacob a second son. Then Rachel said, "With great wrestlings I have wrestled with my sister, and indeed I have prevailed." So she called his name Naphtali. Naphtali was a name given to him because he was called Naphtali, because Rachel, in a symbolic sense, metaphorical sense, thought she was having a struggle, a wrestling match, as if to say, with her sister. And Naphtali means intertwined, and when you wrestle, the bodies intertwine one with each other. So this is the way Naphtali got his name. So the names of people often tell us something about their characteristics and their potentials. So we can say that we know that Naphtali was a natural athlete. He was fast, he was fleet of foot. So we also assume that he was good. He was a good wrestler, a good fighter, and we have other sources. So if you do have this quality, then it's natural innate quality, which is incidentally very useful, very valuable. You should develop. Be careful not to get hurt in practice, but if you're still young and able, develop it, make something out of it. It's worth your time. It could come in handy, and you'll enjoy the practice and the physical fitness that it should impart to you. Anyway, so this is one of the characteristics of Naphtali. Struggling and wrestling. Also it says that in Genesis 49:21, Naphtali is described. Naphtali is a deer let loose. He uses beautiful words. He uses beautiful words in Hebrew, Imri Shefer. This can also indicate musical ability. So if you have musical ability, this may also be an additional indication that you come from Naphtali. It can also imply eloquence, a good speaker, eloquence of speech, if you have this gift of speech and of writing, and so on. So this too is a blessing of Naphtali. We also should mention Naphtali is a deer let loose in Hebrew. This word, deer, translated as deer, is ayala, meaning a doe, meaning a female deer. Naphtali was described as a female deer. Why was this? So we'll see that this also reflects upon the sexual characteristics, or some of the certain personality characteristics of Naphtali. First of all, let's get things clear straight out. The Bible is against sexual deviation. Homosexuals should be put to death according to the Bible. Also transvestism, feminine characteristics, male putting on female clothes and so on, are an abomination according to the Bible. See Deuteronomy 22:5. And the Bible is firmly against it. Men should be men, women should be women. Practice is not always the case. We all have something of the opposite sex in us. And things are also determined by the society, how society views things, what is acceptable, not acceptable. And it changes from different times, different social settings as to what is considered feminine, what is not, or what degree of masculine activities is permitted for women, what degree of feminine or allegedly feminine activity is considered fit for men. It's well known that the cooking may be most cooking is associated with women, but the best chefs in the world are men. Perfume is associated with women, but the makers of perfume, the smellers of perfume, the experts of perfume are all men. So men do have a place to play in so-called feminine bastions of influence of society. And we're here not making value judgments, we're just saying that Naphtali, amongst the tribe of Naphtali, there was a tendency to express what may be called the opposite sex or unisex tendencies more than in the other tribes on a relative scale. And we find this too in groups that we consider to obtain a dominating influence in Norway. Norway was to be dominated by Naphtali. Naphtali was also to be found in other countries, as we shall see, but Norway was one of the countries where Naphtali had a predominating influence. Norway is part of Scandinavia, and Scandinavia in general women are assertive, they also have rights. And they have women, at least according to the statistics, don't know how they feel on the ground as individuals, but according to statistics, women have it better than anywhere else. Norway is considered probably the most advanced country in the world as far as women's rights are concerned. Although Iceland is probably a little bit better, but Iceland is a little island off the coast of Norway, is associated with Norway. Iceland, the feminist situation is even more progressive. Nevertheless, in Norway it's not bad. Possibly both of them, Norway and Iceland, are the most advanced countries in the world, according to this, since 1980s. Most of the governments of Norway have been almost 50% feminine women. And also Norway exports. It promotes women's rights in other countries as part of its policy of helping to advance primitive natives, as if they don't know how they shouldn't put women in their places. They should know that a woman's place is a bit higher up than they suppose. Now Norwegians are going to tell them exactly where, or give them hints as to where they should place their other sides, their better halves, as if to say. So this is what Norway does. This is what Norway is associated with, and this is also an aspect of Naphtali. Naphtali was referred to as an Ayala-letlus, a feminine deer, and the commentators say it was called an Ayala, a feminine deer, because actually, according to the commentations, the feminine deer is faster than a male deer, and that may be so. But nevertheless, the feminine form for a deer is used for Naphtali, and other people would be a bit offended by it. People would think it's not macho enough. It's not. It doesn't give a sufficient expression to the masculinity that we would like to imagine ourselves, or like to be depicted as possessing. And Naphtali doesn't worry about this. It doesn't faze him. And actually, the Norwegians are quite masculine. The men are strong, athletic, and so on. In the ancient times, so with the Vikings, they can look after themselves, and they don't care. And this too is an expression of masculinity. They have no insecurity in this area, therefore they can let themselves go more. Whatever they can bring it this way and that. The fact is that Norway gives the men in Norway, and they give more expression to their feminine side, and the women more to their masculine side, and this was an aspect of Naphtali. And this is something to consider. And we also find in the Bible, that the tribe of Naphtali is not prominent in many of the biblical stories, but one of the early biblical accounts of war, an important war in the north of Israel, involved the tribes of Naphtali and Zebulun. This was the war of Deborah and Barak neged Yavan or Jabin and Sisera. And they were led by Deborah, the Israelites were led by Deborah the prophetess. Deborah was from Ephraim. Deborah was a prophetess from the tribe of Ephraim. The Bible tells us that Jabin, this was shortly after they'd come into the land and began to conquer the land, and it was a seesaw effect, to and fro. They would conquer and then they would lose, and then they would recover and recuperate and conquer more, and it would go back and forth. And sometimes they'd conquer areas and then lose control of them and have the natives, the Canaanites of those areas, gain control over them, and they would beat them, and when they would rebel or be rebelled against, and so on. So the Bible tells us that for 20 years this northern king had oppressed Israel, had oppressed the Israelites. It's known as Jabin, or Yavin in Hebrew. His general, the head of his armed forces, was known as Sisera. And meanwhile, Deborah was a prophetess. She sat under a palm tree in the area of Ephraim, in the center of Israel, and she was from the tribe of Ephraim. And she received a prophecy, and she told Barak. Apparently, Barak was a prominent person. Barak, the son of Abinoam, who lived in Kadesh Naphtali, in the area of Naphtali, was from the tribe of Naphtali. She told Barak, Deborah told Barak to raise 10,000 men from the tribes of Zebulun and Naphtali and to go to war against the Canaanites, against the northern Canaanites. And Barak refused, and yes, Deborah went with him. Deborah in Hebrew, Deborah is the same thing. And he refused, so Deborah did go with him. And they fought against the Canaanites. And at Mount Tabor, which is actually in the region of Naphtali, or close to it, not far off from the Sea of Galilee. And the Canaanites were defeated. Sisera, the leader of the army, of the armed forces of the Canaanites, fled. When he fled, he came to the tent of Jael, or Yael in Hebrew. She was the wife of a Canaanite. A Canaanite were people who were associated with the Israelites, but not exactly at that stage part of them. They were related to Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, and they had accompanied Israel when they came into the land, but apparently they lived a semi-independent existence, not exactly associated with one side or the other. So Sisera, the king, fled from the Israelites. He fled and he was extremely tired and weary, and he came to the tent of Jael. And Jael brought him into the tent and apparently gave the impression that she would shelter him. She gave him milk to drink, and then she covered him with a blanket, and he fell asleep. And whilst he was sleeping, Jael took a tent peg and a hammer and drove it through his skull and killed him. After that, Deborah, as we see in Judges 5, went out and sang a victory song, and this song is a famous song. It's seen in Judges chapter 5. And the song emphasizes the role of women in general. The victory over the Canaanites are ascribed more to Deborah and Jael, or Yael, than they are to Barak ben Abinoam and the men he'd raised from Naphtali and Zebulun. And Deborah in this song describes herself as a mother in Israel, and the role of the heroic role of Jael is also mentioned and praised. And on the other hand, the mother of Sisera, the Canaanite general, is depicted as anticipating his return, the return of her son, in vain, and she expected to see her son. The mother of Sisera expected to see Sisera return with plunder and goods that they're taken from the Israelites, and also that the soldiers of Sisera would each of them bring with them 1 or 2 captive Israelite women for their pleasure and entertainment. And these captive women, who the mother of Sisera imagined or expected to be brought back with the soldiers, with the one soldier having one or two of these women with him, are referred to in this song by the mother of Sisera. They're referred to as Rehem Rahamatime. Now the wombs or two wombs, what we'd say in English, cunts. Now this is an explicit sexual or sexualized description of women and of their role as women depicted. And we all know that women are much more sexually conscious or conscious of gender differences than men are. Well, they put more emphasis on them. So this this song of Deborah is an example of this. And so we see associated with Naphtali, with the victory of Naphtali, we see the principle of feminization or feminism. This was to accompany Naphtali apparently. This was part of the characteristics of the tribe of Naphtali. Another point we asked you, the colours of pink, mauve, or light purple appeal to you. These were the colours of Naphtali. More pink, but it could be purple, could be mauve, and anyway, these are all variations on along the same scale of colouring. Also, the priest, the high priest in the temple service, had a breastplate. On the breastplate, he had 12 stones. Each precious stone was for one of the tribes of Israel. The stone of Naphtali is called a shebo. The shebo is usually identified with an agate, and the agate has a pinkish hue, or more often than not, is a pinkish hue. So this colour was apparently associated with Naphtali. And incidentally, I know very masculine men who like this colour, and in honour of this colour, I wore this tie. Whatever the case, this was the colour of Naphtali, and in a popular folklore concepts, in our concepts, we usually associate pink with girls, blue with boys. So here too, Naphtali has a colour which is more associated with the feminine part of our existence. In folklore, this stone, the shebo or the agate, is given different characteristics, which also, incidentally, those we associate on the whole with Naphtali. This stone is said to calm, to allay fears, to mitigate anger, to strengthen the immunity system, to neutralize negative energies, and so on. And these are all things that Naphtali is depicted as doing, or having the tendency to act along these lines. So it's interesting that these different sources all seem to point in the same direction. Naphtali has a moderating, peacemaking, calming side to his being. And we see this in several different ways and in different sources. And so too, Naphtali, the word Naphtali means intertwine, wrestling or intertwine, so as to we assume, or we may infer that the Naphtali within his union, his marital compact with his better half, or with the husband or the wife you have been blessed, merited to receive. If you have an ongoing partnership of more of equality and an intermixing of tasks and involvement one with the other, this is, chances are you are from Naphtali, or that there's a higher degree of probability that you are from Naphtali based on this point. And we went in, but about preferring compromise to confrontation, flattering adversaries and overseas to avoid unpleasantness, to take the ideas of others and their initiatives and to develop them rather than beginning something of your own. So once again, we get this from the name Naphtali, which means putting things together, combining different elements. Also, Imri Shefa, that Naphtali would give beautiful words. These words also imply in Hebrew, Shefa means improve, make better, as well as make good. Make perfect is connected to the Latin word super, but has a deeper meaning. and so on. So here too, these aspects of Naphtali. Naphtali wants to compromise, to put things together, to unify different elements. Naphtali is described in the commentary of Abarbanel as a faithful emissary, a messenger who does his job. And from Naphtali I mention those who were eloquent in expression, from the word Imre Shefa, from a good speaker, a speaker of quality.